Government has again rubbished claims of looming job cuts to reduce the increasing public sector bill. Public Administration Minister Anda Tlotlo has rejected the claims as unfounded. However, she says government is in talks with workers who are willing to take early retirement. All right, for more on this then, we're joined in studio by Ministerial Spokesperson, Public Service and Administration, Marva Scott. Mr. Scott, a pleasure. Thank you very much for joining us on Afro World View.
Good morning, and thank you very much for inviting us.
Well, you know, the report started in the Mail and Guardian, and they quoted an ANC insider who said that there were plans to cut jobs to deal with the inflated wage bill. Do you have an idea where this, I suppose, rumor comes from? And why would someone be, you know, so vicious as to create this rumor with no basis? I mean, one could say that, you know, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yes, thank you very much once again. I mean, the story talks about a senior government official who has apparently given them the information. What is curious about that is the fact that despite the information supposedly coming from the employer, which is the DPSA in this regard, or even the National Treasury, that's a custodian of numbers in terms of the purse of government, there was no attempt, there's no evidence that there was an attempt to speak to any of these departments. I would suppose that if you are serious about discussing a matter as sensitive as this one and as important as this one, when you get information of that nature, you would certainly want to hear the views of the one who's the custodian of employment. And nothing of the sort has happened. We were never, given an opportunity even to comment before the story was printed, which is why we vehemently distance ourselves from what has been reported in all its form and content.
Now, Minister Tlotlo has herself said that there is no plan to cut jobs so far, but there is talk with those who want to take early retirement. I'm stuck on the word so far. There's no plan to cut jobs so far. I mean, those words mean that there is a possibility in the long term that there may indeed be job cuts, that may change, that statement may change. Are you at all anticipating job cuts, I think is what I'm trying to ask then?
Certainly, government at this point has not published or sent out any report or suggestion or plan to cut jobs in the public service. Certainly not the 30,000 that the Mail and Guardian has reported on. What Minister Tlotlo was talking about is some of the initiatives that are being considered in a quest to manage the public sector wage bill. You would recall that in Cape Town sometime in May, she did hint to some of the initiatives that government is going to take to ensure that we manage the escalating public sector wage bill, which is at the moment up to 500 billion per annum. So it's important that certain steps have to be taken. And those steps that she announced, none of them have indicated any numbers. Yeah. Certainly, what she was saying was that some of the options that are being considered, firstly, is the possibility of early retirement without attracting penalties. You do know that the regime currently is that if you have not reached the retirement age and you want to take your pension, you want to take it early, you would attract some penalties in terms of the rules. But in this proposed view is that you would offer people who are ready to retire but who have not yet reached the stage to retire an opportunity to do so if they want.
And are there people who are at this stage saying, listen, I would in fact like to take that early retirement? Because I'm wondering if people are not taking that option, what other options is the minister then having to look at? And I suppose this might then add credence to the fact that there is a possibility of having to have those job cuts then.
No, at the moment, I mean, this is still being considered. Remember, this is a matter that has an impact in the whole collective bargaining system, which calls for an engagement with the unions or social partners at the public sector bargaining council. So it's a matter that that requires engagement, but it's a matter that government is actually very much serious about in terms of trying to address this public sector wage bill. One of the issues that government is considering is an employer-initiated severance package. Remember, there is an employee initiated severance package that is in existence for quite some time now, but this time we're saying that the employer also is considering to approach certain categories of workers, especially in the non-core areas, because when you do this, you've got to be careful not to exacerbate the skills deficit in the public service. You do know that the public service requires technical and professional skills in a variety of sectors. So you don't want to open the floodgates and say to people they must come and take a package, they must retire en masse, and you end up with a problem. So government has to be very meticulous in engaging in this exercise to ensure that you don't compromise its capacity to deliver services.
And just in closing, when it comes to issues of, whether it's a rumor or not, and it's unfounded, but, whenever we talk about possibilities of job cuts and all of that, one then, the question then begs about job creation. Are we in a position to really say that, government is keeping its promises to create jobs for South Africans?
Of course, government is keeping its promises. I think you should understand this as a move to reshape the public service so that it's better able to deliver services.
Yeah.
What these options are doing is to give an option to a worker. It's not to force people out of the system, but to give them options. You would be surprised to find out how many people are keen to participate and take their early retirements, especially with an option that there will be no penalties attached to it. With regard to the issue of job creation, you would recall that a few weeks ago, the minister launched a graduate recruitment scheme. This scheme is aimed at increasing the employability of the youth and young graduates. So you are creating space for young minds to enter the public service, because in the quest to turn around the image of the public service, to professionalize it, you need the energy. You need to create and build your own capacity to deliver services. So the issue of job creation is high on the agenda of government, but it is critical that you must also focus on the capacity of the state to deliver services, which is key in the mandate of government to serve the people of South Africa.